Yeah, great. And I wanted to start. It's actually a bit of a full circle day. Duchess is turning 7 today, so a big hand for Duchess also on her birthday. Yeah, she's taught me a lot for a 7-year-old. So I am born and raised Cape Town. So I have my KOA jacket in the cupboard. I went to Jan van Riebeeck High School in town, so I've always been around this area, and yeah, I think interestingly, I went to one of the biggest moments of my life was being an exchange student in the Netherlands. When I was 15, I decided, you know what, I'm out of here. I went to the Netherlands for a year and lived there. Saw a completely different culture. You think I'm Afrikaans? It's a completely different culture. It's like that's the thing. And interestingly enough, that also came in again when we launched the Duchess. So that experience in the Netherlands. And the ideas and things I saw there. But I then went to UCT, not Stellenbosch, so I wanted to be alternative. I studied property investment, which is very far from where I ended up. The quick thing on that, the reason I'm not in property development is I was set to finish my degree in 2009 when the global property market fell apart. So I decided, you know what, it was my first pivot. So I went into advertising, and in advertising you learn a lot about building brands, and you meet a lot of people. You get to try your ideas on other people's brands, which is great. But then at some point I decided, you know what, I'm ready to start my own business.
Tell us about those the early stages of you in your first jobs. What was it like? What did you learn? What are some of the things that you maybe thought were not useful then, but then now when you're running your own company, you're like, wow, this thing I learned in my first job or second job was useful?
I'm going to go way back with this. So my first, not really my first job, but my first entrepreneurial experience was when I was 10, and it was at the 1998 KTV Market Day. They used to have it here at the Goodwood Centre. It was massive. I was preparing for it for months. Put a lot of effort in. I recalculated, like you said, like how much money I was going to make at my little 10-year-old spreadsheet before Excel, and somehow convinced my dad, who's an artist, to give me a lot of direction on the product. But still, like we made beautiful artworks and type of things, and anything that everything that really doesn't sell. So I think that like I spent the whole day there, standing there, and I didn't sell one thing. I didn't sell nothing, not zero. And I think the biggest kind of lesson I learned from that, it was actually the biggest lesson I think I've learned, is always have a product market fit. You know, and next year sell zombies or cooksters or something.
Brilliant. I think that's like a tough lesson all the time for entrepreneurs, because a lot of times we fall in love with our idea. And as entrepreneurs, we call our ideas babies, which I believe is a mistake, because you don't want people to tell you that your baby is ugly, right? So instead of calling your ideas babies, call them experiments, because that way you could change and pivot. Because, hold on, did you have any ideas that you really fell in love with, but they just didn't really work?
I think there are loads. The way I like to test, and this is where I spoke earlier, test ideas, is a lot of people build ideas for years and then they take it to market and they bootstrap it for years and things, and I tend to do things a little bit differently. I have an idea, and then I build a quick investment deck. So, and then if I still feel like in the next few months that the idea could work, I go pitch the investment deck, and then if I get the funding, then I do it, because that's your first sort of, okay, cool, there seems to be a bit of a market, people are willing to invest money into this, so you can make that work. And then, and then you try it sometimes fails. I've had businesses that fail. Definitely had a lot of bad ideas.
Yeah, brilliant. Now tell us about now your entrepreneurial journey, like when you started, what was it like? What were, like, just take us through some of the companies, the businesses that you had before getting to Duchess.
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, I was in advertising. I was kind of employee number one. It was a friend of mine that started it, and learned a lot about business in the sense of, and people management and pitching ideas and through that. And then the first business I launched myself as a 22-year-old Afrikaans guy was a brandy and Coke on tap. I was like, I am a genius. This is going to be huge. You know, it was a lot of fun, big learning. You don't just jump into the alcohol industry. Yeah, so the first learning was you can't just call Coca-Cola and they'll sell you the Coca-Cola for your drink. You have to go and make your own things. And those early learnings actually still applied to the Duchess and now Dope, which I'll speak about.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
great. And now on the Duchess, like that was like a really novel idea. Like the time you started it 7 years ago, we didn't see a lot of alcohol-free, like gin and tonic. Now the alcohol-free gin as well now, and all of those type of things. But you started that. What sparked the idea, and what was it like in the early stages of your company?
Sure, yeah. It was definitely still early days for alcohol-free drinks. I don't even think we really expected it to take off as much as it did. But I'd done Branas, and I partnered with KWB, and they bought that business from me, which was great because I didn't want to move to Benoni. I did take some of the capital and said, okay, I'm going to go find my new project, and it will obviously be alcohol, and I'm going to go back to the Netherlands for the first time again, and I'm going to go see what people in Europe do and drink, and ended up basically partying. But I did speak to people whilst doing that. And interestingly enough, well, it was that 2016, people would know this, the gin craze. I mean, gin is still growing in Africa, by the way. It's like, gin is only just getting started in Africa. But gin craze, and then more and more people, everyone I started speaking to said, listen, I'm actually trying to cut back my alcohol. So it was like now people openly talk about it, but then they mention it in like a survey, you know, they're like, talking about what should be new in alcohol, I'm trying to cut back, maybe something like that. So I came back and I said, okay, well, why can't we can get alcohol-free beer, why can't we get alcohol-free gin and tonic? And from my learnings from Branas, I had spoken to food technologists and flavor houses and said, okay, well, let's build this product. And we built something that was pretty good. Like, I was like, okay, this tastes like a gin and tonic. It's quite amazed. And I even pitched it to a few people, and I would like take my little sample bottle, and like I said, because I always start with investors. Because you need to make a salary, you need to be able to get this thing going. If you can't pay yourself, you can't dedicate the time to building the business. So then that's the number one thing that the business needs, is the founder. After a while, I was like, I think the product can be a bit better. And I remembered my aunt giving me this like botanical extracts that she made, like bitters or something. She made, and my dad calls her a witch, but she's always made these amazing like bitters, and she makes soaps and all kinds of things. And I added like 2 or 3 drops to my product, and it was just like, the Duchess was born, and I knew I had something special.
Wow. That's incredible. And you mentioned that the way you start, you like to pitch to investors. Tell us, like, what do investors look for? What have you done that is different, that helps you to just kind of always get investors and then start? If you're not getting them, then what do you look at? What do you work on? Tell us about the talking to investors bit.
Sure, yeah. I think if I have to summarize the thing that I've been the most actively involved with in the last 7 years, it is fundraising. So it's interesting, you think you run a drinks company. I was, for 3.5 years I was fundraising. And there's some interesting stories I can maybe share on that too. But so from an investment deck perspective, what a lot of people, especially a few years ago, I think they're slowly getting there. People think it's about information. It's about having an answer to everything. It's about having the perfect, like you said, business plan. I realize people just like pretty pictures. They're like, you have to sell the idea with like beautiful pictures. You need to take them with on the vision. They're an investor, but they're a consumer first, right? So if you can get them to like want your product, then they can envision other people, their friends and family, also wanting your product, and then they're like, "Ooh, I can make money off my friends and family." You know, like, so that's kind of the way. But obviously, I think it's really important. I think you offer like a course on how to structure a pitch deck.
Yes.
A lot of people it's way too long. Like you've got a 10-pager. I always use a 10-pager. I've raised $5 million on 10 pages. Right, like you can go far away, but I think what they're also looking for, and you only do this by going at it, and is if you've done it before, if you've got a track record, and yeah, I think you need to be willing to always just figure it out on the go. Like investors are there literally to do like a due diligence on you as a person, not even on your brand or your like vision. They're there to like kind of test you, and you need to be able to like keep a straight face and like always have. You don't need to have an answer right there, but you always need to be able to work towards an answer or just answer something else.
Yes.
They don't even realize.
I see. And then for people who have raised maybe once and they're trying to raise like even more money, what would be like specific tips you would give to somebody who says, look, I want to now go to maybe seed or Series A and stuff?
I think it's very important to sell the opportunity. So you start by basically selling this really big opportunity, but like you can quantify it and you get excited about it, you can explain it. And then on the other hand, you have to go like, that's like the macro. And then the micro, for me, is you need to also in depth be able to explain that customer. So it's like, okay, great. Well, and this is exactly that. This is John or Sarah that's like buying the product currently. This is what she says about it. This is what she loves. This is the sales data that supports us. My rate of sale in this area. If we can replicate this sort of perfect model in other areas, then we can kind of extrapolate that it would look something like that.
Yeah.
People like money wants to grow, right? So all that these investors have to do, their job is to make their money grow. So if you can show them like a money making machine, then if they put their money in, it's going to grow, then you basically sell them.
Yeah. I think that cannot be overemphasized, because a lot of times I've seen, like, I've looked at thousands of pitch decks and listened to thousands of pitches, but there's that, like, entrepreneurs who are pitching to say, look, I am changing the world, or I'm helping people, or help me, or just give me money because you're rich, you know, which is different from what you say. Like, they're thinking, I'm investing, my money should come back, and there's a high chance that my money won't come back. How do I convince them that actually your money will come back, but it not only come back, it will grow? Like, would you tell us some of that?
That's why I think it is important to try and have build case studies, or have track records, or like have some sort of a story where you can explain how this has happened before and why you expect it to happen again. But it sometimes is completely sometimes it is a bit far out how you get to the point, right?
Yeah.
So and you have to be really like, sometimes they don't even just want to invest in you directly, but you realize, oh, they really actually want to partner with one of my partners. So this is like, this deal is just a way to end up playing a whole game. You need to really understand what you think you need to explain your investment to them, but you need to actually understand what they need. And you basically, when you do that and you fulfill whatever way you mold what you have into their need, then you start getting like traction, because you're actually you're making their job easier. So I think that's an interesting point. But one story on, like, probably my biggest pitch that I've done was, and I was my wife was working in Portugal, so I followed her there for 3 months. It was winter in Cape Town, so I was like, okay, cool, I'll come with. And I got a call, and we were like I thought that the deal with AB was already, should have been done months ago or whatever, but we were like in the final to get the deal over the line. And then they called me in from New York, and they're like, can you get here in 24 hours and pitch to Carlos Brito and the 7 zone presidents on the future of alcohol-free drinks? And this will be the final test. I'm like,
wow.
Okay, this is big. I got on plane like 3 hours later, like jet lag, go and pitch to zone, like the 7 zone. That's the head of every continent, right? Wow. So like, and then the previous CEO of AB InBev. And it looks like that worked because they didn't listen us. So that is interesting. But yeah.
Brilliant. Now, tell us about the Duchess. Like, how many products do you have, and how is that going?
Sure. Yeah, we've like with any business, you go through phases. So at some point we've had 5 different SKUs. So we've had we started with the alcohol-free gin tonic with botanical and the floral, which we still have. So this is the floral. But we started with it in glass bottles, and then we launched the Duchess wine spritzers, alcohol-free wine spritzers. With COVID and everything, like there was a lot more interest in alcohol-free drinks. The funny thing was we had positioned Duchess so much as an alcohol-free gin tonic, people didn't realize it's a wine spritzer. They're like, but it doesn't taste like gin tonic. I'm like, because it's a wine spritzer. So that's why we've now launched a different brand for the wine spritzers called Cape Spritz. And we cut some of our SKUs because over time, at some point, you can't act like a startup anymore. You have to run a business, and you have to look at which SKUs are actually performing. I had a conversation with somebody earlier here also. It's like you end up making the decision at that point with the information you've got, right?
Yeah.
You kind of, at the start, which is really great, that's why everyone loves the start, you can design the whole future.
Yes.
But you don't, because you don't have any sort of luggage or anything holding you back. But when you're in the business, it becomes, the more deeper you get, the more difficult it is to shape the business. You're actually in the stream, you're in a river. Like, it's to change the direction of that river is very difficult. So, so it is important to try and get as close to where you want to go up front, but there'll always be pivots.
And tell us about Dope.
Yeah, sure. So I like to explain kind of my beverage entrepreneurial journey. Also, I never would have thought I was a beverage entrepreneur, as starting in alcohol and then going alcohol free, which is the Duchess. And then where we're going now with Dope is what we call beyond alcohol. So beyond alcohol is like cannabis drinks, and locally we've tested.
Did you hear that? The murmur, like, oh.
Yeah. And it's a super exciting category. It's something that excites me extremely, especially for the next 10 years, because I think it's just going to grow all around the world. And we launched Dope in South Africa in 2019 already, so it's already been going for a while. We sold 500,000 units, but locally it's with CBD, right? So CBD, it's got calming effects, but it's not psychoactive, so it's not really, for me, an alternative to alcohol. With the US now opening up THC in beverages, that's like the first real alternative, the first real competitor, I think, to alcohol ever. So it's something that's really exciting to me. You can now microdose drink, any type of drink, but we make like a flavored sparkling water, like a seltzer, microdose it with 5 milligrams of CBD, 5 milligrams of THC, and you get a very similar social effect than you get with a beer. Because now it's not like I had the worst marijuana experiences in my life. I think I just passed out for 2 days when I ate a brownie the last time. But this is what's changing now is that you can actually pinpoint it, and I think that's the success of alcohol actually is, because it's so measurable. You know what a beer does to you. So you commit to, you have a beer, you even know what 2 or 3 or 4 beers does to you. So you can have that same thing with that consistency and with that nano-sized emulsion in cannabis. I think you're going to see really interesting things in the future. Yeah. So we're launching that. I'm flying to Minnesota. Don't ask me why Minnesota. It's the most open to cannabis drinks at the moment. Minnesota in 3 weeks to go produce our first 100,000 cans.
Oh. That's amazing. I've tasted the drink and it's dope. Right. And tell us about some of like your failures, like the moments when what am I doing? Like, why am I doing this? And where you're questioning your existence. Did you ever have the moments like that? And how do you deal with moments like that? How did you get out?
Yeah, you definitely do. I think we sometimes even try and forget about them. Like but you know, there are loads. I actually had one that I wanted to speak about. Failures, you know what can actually, sometimes things that look like is great in like a partnership. Like I said with say like having let's just call it a big strategic partner that I pitch. Yeah. So it starts off being a big success, but you quickly realize that these massive players can be quite a lot of weight on a startup company. So like I think one of your most important things is obviously you need to raise funding, and it always becomes like, okay, cool, I'll take anything, right? But if you can, sure, try and find like-minded people, try and really understand what strategic value they'll be able to contribute, because in the end, you're going to be working your ass off like every day, and yeah, they need to also play their part. Yes, capital, they give you capital, but I think it's important that they also provide a network, ideally some strategic support, and at least they should have your back. Yeah. So I think that's probably some of the failures we've had, is not necessarily always having the best partners. And then I think one of the biggest thing, and I didn't learn from my 10-year-old self, was that alcohol-free drinks market, people love talking about it, but like no, we never looked at the data. We just went. We raised a lot of money, and nobody asked us, so how big is this really? Like, how many people are really drinking alcohol-free drinks in South Africa, or Australia, or Belgium, or the Netherlands? And I think it's really important. Sometimes the categories, we said the category was like nascent, so it was still very early, and it was growing really fast, but at some point you have to be like, listen, this category is only so big. It's only going to be realistically growing at this size. This is like what you can invest, and you may need to add more products to be able to sustain this journey for the long term.
Great. And we're going to start taking questions from the audience, and in the meantime, you could get anything that you think is quotable, is threadable, right? You think that you could post on social media, do that at Pranary, #Pranary. I'll be super, super dope. And tell us about your successes, like the ones that you're really proud of, like those moments, that moment, this and this, or achieving this. Tell us about those.
So I had a baby boy 2 years ago. That's the biggest thing probably for me. And I think you can't really, once that happens, business doesn't compare. And then being able to run a business and have a 2-year-old, I think that's the second success, right? Like, so that's really been quite amazing. But I mean, it's also, I think, incredible, because you start seeing the world from their perspective, and you slow down and you start actually introspecting. So it's probably helped me more in business than anything else. Yeah, I think, and other successes is like you have those big moments where you like high five and you sign a massive deal, or we were able to take Duchess to 5 countries in the world. We've sold over 10 million units. We were able to partner with some of the biggest companies in the world, AB InBev and RMB Bank, for instance. And that's not your friends and family investing in you and telling you this is the valuation. This is the bank telling you that's what the valuation is, which is, it's really great to get that that validation. But in the end, I think, yeah, it's the smaller things in life.
Fantastic. We're going to take questions from the audience. There's a question there at the back. Maybe you can just stand up, introduce yourself, and then shout, because we only have one microphone.
What an incredible interview. Good evening, everyone. My question is, how do you find out what the actual company you're pitching for is looking for? Because you mentioned that. You said you need to know what they actually want so that you can create or tweak what you already have to suit their wants.
That's a great question. And it's something I also learned more recently is, I think as entrepreneurs, we try and give them everything at once. We're trying to be like, okay, cool, here is my pitch deck and my valuation, my offer and my term sheet, and and you're gonna buy it in 10 years for that, right? And I think the problem is then you're telling them everything you want without learning about what they want. So what you want to be doing is when you start engaging with the investors, you want to start a conversation. And you almost want to, in a way, drip feed information, because every time you send something to them, that's an email or a call that comes back to you, and something you learn from them. You learn something every time you speak to them. Face-to-face is really great. I did fundraising in COVID over Zoom. That was tough, because then it's tough to learn those things. But then you always for me, fundraising should also, it's like a big sell. It's a big sale. So, and selling is something where you hear this a lot. You need a consumer journey. So you need an investor journey. So you need to, you can't just have your pitch deck and then be like, cool, I'll take it as it goes. You need to have interesting things lined up to talk to them about for the next 6 months. You need to be like, cool, and then I'm going to tell them that we just got macro listing, and then I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to then I'm doing all these things up front so I can share it with them to get to know them better, see how they react. Some things they like, so I focus more on that. So it has to be a back and forth. That's how I would say it, but it's not, some investors are very they don't give a lot. But it's always good to, this actually came from a book called Winning Ugly. It's a tennis book that Andre Agassi speaks about a lot. So it's not about hitting the winning shot. It's just about getting the ball over the net. So because then they can make the mistake, right? So you can win ugly, right? Just try and get the ball over the net. Don't try and hit the winning shot.
Nice. Mic drop. Cool. Question here.
Hi, I'm Michelle Carlson, and I have a company called Feel Good Health, and we work with herbal and homeopathic medicines. So like you, we often run into regulatory issues with South Africa and the USA. So I'm very interested to hear from you with your company Dope, with THC and CBD. How did you find the regulatory environment in South Africa as well as in the USA?
Great. Okay, so I'll repeat the question for everybody. The question is around in your industry, we're dealing with Michelle's
Functional ingredients.
Yes, functional ingredients, cannabis, CBD, all of those. You have regulatory issues or just advertising, you get blocked and all those. How do you handle that? How do you handle the regulatory issues?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a thing. I mean, when we launched Dope, we had 2 shipments stop. Obviously, you couldn't get CBD in South Africa yet. Shipments stopped by, and the money we never got back. And yeah, it's difficult to be on the forefront, to be kind of the first and be on the forefront, and also be able to, because you have to really build that. You have to now work with the Department of Health and ShopPro and all these guys, and I can understand. So I personally just go, I just do it and then apologize afterwards, as long as it's not going to get me in jail, right? So I just do it, and then I'm like, see, it's fine. And then it's also nice to see what other people do. I always just make sure that we're on the side of trying to comply as much as we can with, and especially in the South African context where there is sometimes not a lot of replying and back and forth. In the US, it's a lot more stringent, and same as in Europe. You have to be able to be agile, right? So we were going to do our production run in California, and we would have done a regulated THC product there that complies to only California law. Now, in the last sort of 6 months, since we've been planning this, we had everything. We had even deposits paid and stuff. Minnesota's opened the door completely to legalize THC in all beverages. You can sell it in any restaurant, bar, store, anywhere, and there's no taxes on it. And another thing happened. There's something called Delta 9 now, which is a offspin of it's hemp derived, but it has the same effect as THC. So it falls under the hemp bill and not the farm bill, not the THC bill. So you can ship that across state lines. So we had an idea and we had everything planned for that, and then we literally in the last 2 weeks changed it all because this is the big opportunity. So I think and then I just always pay the lawyers, always pay the label people. Just don't try and write those labels yourself.
Brilliant. Cool. Yes. Okay, you're close.
Okay. Hi, I'm Toko Omia, and I'm the Provincial Head of Enterprise Development at Build One South Africa. And my question for Western Cape entrepreneurs, South African entrepreneurs specifically, and it's one that I get often, is around finances. What are the best ways to prove while you're building your business, your investor readiness financially? What can you do on paper that gets you over that line?
Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's important, at different stages, there'll be different ways to do it. But I like to focus again on the qualitative things, because you can easily say, listen, if you can prove it in don't go and say, okay, I am a South African or Western Cape company and I am competing against Coca-Cola and these guys. Say, okay, cool, well, let's choose 5 stores. These 5 stores I'm really going to focus, I'm going to do, with the resources available to me, I'm going to prove in those 5 stores that my product works. It outsells competitors, it outsells, the customers really love it. Go to those stores, get surveys from those people. Why do you love it? What are the reasons you buy it? And then that's what you can do as a small company, because you haven't got the financing. But you can take that and say, I've just built a proof of concept. So if I have, and I've done this with 1 person, what if I had 5 people? What can I then do? And then say, and this is what 5 people are going to cost me. That's kind of the way I would do it. Valuations and stuff are different all over, different sectors, different things. In America, you can just go cool, whatever my turnover is multiplied by whatever. But here, you can't do that again. So it's different, but it's much easier to build it from the ground up than to try and never ever say, if I just get 1% of this market, they will kick you out.
Fantastic. The 1% of China.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions? So question there.
Okay, so I'm not an entrepreneur, but I'm in corporate, and I'd like to know, because I feel like a lot of products or entrepreneurs start with a product first. At what point do you bring in someone who focuses on the brand and does that positioning? And do you do it sooner rather than later? No.
So I've been very lucky to always co-found my companies with a marketing geniuses. So I think that's more important in the start than the product or anything really, because at the start you're really selling an idea and not really a product yet or anything. So I think we've gotten pretty much 75% of where we've gotten because of the creative brands that my co-founders Ines and Andrew have built. Yeah. So it's really important, and I also come from advertising. So we are ideas, marketing first people. And I think it's also, that's maybe an interesting thing just to share. It's always important to understand where's your superpower, where's your stage of the business. And 7 years is longer than we should have had this company already. It's longer now because of COVID and all kinds of things. But generally, we're brand builders. We launch a product, we prove concept, we build it to like a reasonable size, and then we integrate it. We integrate it with an existing portfolio where it can actually be profitable and feasible and scale. And that happens 3 to 5 years. So a lot of what you're doing actually in the first 3 to 5 years is just brand building. So it's very much marketing, because you're not going to build a better distribution or production system than the biggest guys. The only thing you can really stand out on is brand.
Yeah. Great, thanks. And another question for me is, when you are trying to get a strategic partnership with like a big brand, a big company, what do you sell? How do you get them to actually care? Because they can go on doing what they're doing and their life won't change so much, but like, how do you show them like, look, with us you'll be so much better?
So firstly, I think it's important to get the timing right for you and for the company. So to be at the right time of integration. They ideally want companies that are quite a bit bigger. Like every big strategic partner wants to buy a company that has a $50 million turnover. Every company that has a $50 million turnover doesn't want to sell their company. So it's like this weird thing. But that's why everyone's now trying to like start these like venture capital companies or growth arms or things like that to buy earlier stage companies and help build them into something that the biggest strategic partner can then eventually integrate. It's like a step before that. But then I always thought like build something for them, like that they would want.
Okay.
But I've got a new strategy. Build something that hurts them. Build something that will, if this goes to market or if this gets sold to a competitor or if this scales actually, it will hurt them. So then they're like, okay, cool. No, we need this as part of our side. So it's a bit of a strong thing, but I'm just saying it needs to impact them.
Brilliant.
It can't just be upside, it needs to impact them.
Brilliant. Question there?
So, for me, I guess my question is, how do we, as a country that needs to employ more people, create a conducive environment in terms of legislation for organizations like the NEF, ITCs to do more in terms of financing township entrepreneurs, but also entrepreneurs in general in South Africa, because they need the most support. And when you look at reports, I think NEF spends more on administration as opposed to the money that they spend on entrepreneurs. So how do we change that with someone that has established a successful business to then help us as politicians who then will influence policies in parliament to make sure that the next 5 years looks like government supporting entrepreneurs themselves as opposed to them going overseas? Because eventually you will end up in America, and that's something we don't want. We'd like to see more success stories coming from the country. And how do we do that legislatively?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's actually something that I care about a lot too as a South African, and I saw like a really worrying statistic the other day. It was like 2022 or something where it listed 150 countries and the ease of doing business and like building a business in that country. And South Africa was like 148th, right, on that list. It's like one of them, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Like, it's actually, so maybe that, but it could be like a good challenge, but it should also not be that difficult, right? It should also not be that difficult. You can see entrepreneurs South African entrepreneurs flourish around the world because they actually come from a diverse space and probably with a lot of challenges. I think it all comes down to, for me, these type of things like Pranary, like actual practical business, like education and funding. So like even if we can just no entrepreneur in South Africa has gotten money from a bank. Like like in Europe and America, you can get business loans. You get like startup loans. You get and those loans are underwritten by the government. So they're not even like, it's only if you don't pay it back, then that's where the government steps in. I think there's also this amazing statistic about microloans in India, where it's the highest payback rate of any sort of lending program in the world, including credit cards of banks, the biggest banks in the world, because people are just so like happy and so grateful that they're getting the opportunity to like build it. And these are loans from like $5 to $50, right? Like, where's our micro lending program in South Africa? I don't. Where's like, there's no tax breaks. You get the EIS program in the UK, where you can write off all your earnings, if an investor invests in you, then and everything they make on that, they don't pay tax on. And that help, that's a small little thing that you can do to like let investment flow. And there's a perfect template, the EIS program. So these are the type of things I think can help a lot.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And think that one, were you a politician? Said we? That's good to know.
Over in South Africa is representing the 7 of us.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. So it's good to know that, because I think the reputation, like internationally for South Africa, I was in DC a few months ago, and then in Silicon Valley, like the other, like 4 months ago. But the conversation there is like, in South Africa, it's very difficult to send money in. And we experienced that with the Enigma Ventures Africa Trust Group, where we received investment and it just stays in the bank for sometimes months. Like the money has landed, but what's going on, right? And then all those, like also to send money out is an issue where before they invest, a lot of investors say, okay, how much have you done in South Africa? Can you now register in the US or in Mauritius or now Rwanda? So Rwanda is making it like super easy to do business. You can register a company in 1 day in Rwanda. Whether you're a foreigner or you're local, it's the same requirements. So those are kind of like the examples. But then also I think incentivizing investors, like it's been said. Then the other thing is actually for township entrepreneurs, for previously disadvantaged individuals, black people, colored people, like Indians and all of that, the conversation from the government shouldn't just be that get an idea, NEF will fund you, or get an idea, then CEDA will fund you, because they actually don't fund ideas. So there's that frustration, like I went there and they're not giving me money. Like, what have you done? So the other is like, CEDA gives like loans, where for a loan you need to have collateral. They're saying they can't give me money, they want collateral. Like, yeah, because it's a loan. And then the other is like, what have you done? No, nothing. If you give me money, I'll do. But even around the world, it doesn't work like that. They just come with an idea, then people just give you money. So I think that's like the change here to say, do something like what Johannes was saying. Like, look, I sold 1. Imagine if you gave me money, I'm going to sell 10. Then people believe. And then that's, I think, should be the repeated message to entrepreneurs here. And that's my message to entrepreneurs here, that actually by doing, when you got traction, it's like somebody comes to you and say, give me money, I'll build you a 2-story house. Like, have you built a house before? No, but I've watched my brother build houses. All right. In closing, what advice would you have for just generally entrepreneurs here and entrepreneurs in South Africa, Africa want to build great companies like yours?
I think you said it there. Just do it. Right? Just do it first, and then keep on doing it. Because when you stop doing, and you become stagnant, then and you overthink things, and you want to be perfect, and then momentum is more important than even being 50% perfect. Momentum, just keep on going. That's, people say it a lot, fail and do and fail and do. But it's really, for me, it's about momentum, because you look alive.
Yeah.
At least something's going on there. There's some energy going on there, and people get attracted to energy, and capital is attracted to energy. So keep momentum when you do it. don't just do it, like change your idea if it doesn't work, but like keep changing and doing.
Thank you very much. Momentum, big hand. Yes. Thank you very much, Johannes. This has been like a great fireside chat. I'm going to watch this again and take notes again. And, we record this, we put it on YouTube, so you can share to those people who couldn't make it today. We put all our fireside chats on YouTube. So thank you. This has been like very educational, very inspirational. Really, another round for Johannes.
Thank you.
And thank you to all of you who made it today. Thank you very much for coming through. Happy spring and happy September. And thank you very much to all our sponsors, to our sponsors like Ayoba. Thank you very much. We encourage you to download the Ayoba app, and then if you've got a business, put it on Ayoba. They've got 25 million users. You get quick access to that. So I'm going to share the QR code. You sign up to that. That will be a game changer for you. And then our next event is going to be on. The next event is on the 4th of October here, and we'll announce our guests shortly, very soon. And then we've got a conference coming up on the 18th and 19th of October. It's called Elevate Your Enterprise Conference. So it's talking about growth via technology, marketing, and investment. So we've got marketers, we've got technology people, we've got investors, and people who've raised money sharing. It's going to be at the workshop 17. So it's a small space, as you know, so you should get your tickets as soon as possible. And then lastly, from Pranary, we've got the Boost coaching program. We've got two versions of it. One is Boost Launch. It's for helping those people who are thinking about launching businesses. You've got a job you want to start, or you started, you're not making money. We help you with that. That's a Boost Launch, because we have people come to us say, look, I've spent 500,000 Rand and nobody's giving me any money. Help us. But it's like, that's too late. You should come to us before you spend any money. Right? And then we've got Boost Grow, which is about sales and marketing. So those companies that are already existing, making money, we help you to grow that. We go very deep into sales, marketing, and customer success methods. So thank you very much, and thanks once again to the team, the Pranary Cape Town team. We're looking for more people to join us. It's a team of volunteers that put this together. So a big hand for the volunteers, please. And then lastly, you can join our WhatsApp groups. We got the Pranary WhatsApp group for Cape Town, and then we got the other one you can join if you want to get onto Ayoba. You can use the QR code. All right, so we've got another hour of more networking, but before we do that, we're going to run the lucky draw. You remember there was a competition that... Oh, you didn't know about the competition? No. Okay, because you're here. If you don't know, now you know. Now you know, you're here. There are two prizes to be won tonight. The first one is, the first winner is going to have going to get a case of the Duchess. Yeah, how cool is that? Are they getting the spritzer or the...
They can choose.
Dope.
The THC dope.
Not yet dope. Okay, so the spritzer or the GNT. Okay, so that's the first winner. Then the other winner, the second winner, is gonna win a mentorship session, like 30 minutes with the amazing Johannes. So imagine all this knowledge you had now, but now it's just you one-on-one. How cool is that? But come prepared. Okay. So we're going to run this draw now, and then when we do that, we'll get the winners here. And the only condition is that the winners need to be in the room. So if they bought tickets, they didn't make it, sorry. So I'm going to run the draw. This competition has been audited by Deloitte. Okay. All right, so all the names have been loaded already. Okay, so you see all of those are all the names. Okay? All of you are auditors now. All right, so the first winner for the spritzer is Charlotte. Congratulations. Congratulations. And
Thank you
we'll
for
take
your
a picture.
product sponsorship.
Yes.
She told me I would have worn bitter clothes and done my hair. Maybe my shopping too.
Yeah, you had
I must like it in. Okay. Now you can see us well.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
The spritzer, yeah. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Now, ladies and gentlemen, really needs to talk to Charlotte. All right, the second one is the winner of the mentorship. Okay, we're going to draw again. Takalo, Pale, not here. Not here. T. Where's T? Congratulations, T. Yeah, congratulations. Cool.
Congrats. Nice to meet you.
Okay, okay, on this side, so we're out of there. We talk about diversity, eh? Fantastic. Congratulations, T. Congratulations.